As I've said on previous occasions, Tekken is one of my favorite fighting game franchises of all time. With 2014 marking it as its 20th anniversary, there's no better way to celebrate it than dedicating a whole month to Tekken. Let's start it off with the first game in the series, Tekken. Released in 1994, it was developed and published by Namco. It was created to compete with Sega's Virtua Fighter as the two 3D fighting game giants. Now, we all know many sequels and spin-offs have spawned since this game, but is it still worth playing today? We'll take a look as we analyze the graphics, audio, and of course the most important part, the gameplay. Now let's start off with the graphics. Because it's the first Tekken, it's gonna look the most primitive. However, even for its time, the graphics were outdated. Even games such as Virtua Fighter looked much better than this. Your first warning sign for the graphics come in the character selection. I mean, what's up with Law's face? But when you start playing the game, you notice that it doesn't look that much better than the character selection screen. One of the very few benefits that I will give it for the graphics are the backgrounds are nice and colorful. While there are 2D, which became a staple of the Tekken genre, it still looks okay. However, the same cannot be said with the character models and the animation. Everything appears so stiff. Even at the time, the 3D was considered outdated. The way the textures are, there's no real expression, everybody looks blocky. Even Jack, I mean, what's up with him? He just has huge arms but a small body. It really makes no sense and nothing is proportioned. Along with the in-game graphics engine, you also have these cutscenes that appear in the opening and after you beat arcade mode. Now, while they are cool and they have become a staple of the Tekken franchise, here it's pretty weak. Because first of all, the CGI looks really bad. While it does add to the cheesiness factor that Tekken has, they're still bad to look at. Other than helping to flesh out the characters, it really does nothing visually. So being the first Tekken, it's the worst looking, even for the time. And that's why my final score for the graphics is a 4 out of 10. Again, I'm not basing this off of today's standards or comparing this to the future Tekkens. I'm looking at it as an early PS1 title, and for an early one, it's still unimpressive. While the environments are nice and colorful and vary from each place that you are, it's not enough to salvage the graphics for this game.
Final round. Fight.
The first thing I'd like to comment on for this is the music. There's a lack of music. Now, I don't know if it's because of my emulator or what, but for some reason the music doesn't play. So because of that, I'll comment on the other things and I won't comment on that. So starting off with the announcer, I think the announcer sounds pretty cool. I always liked hearing him. Though it's not as epic as the later announcers will be in Tekken 2 and Tekken 3, he still does a pretty nice job. A better job than the announcer in Soul Edge did. While the sound effects aren't bad in any means, the voices are a little bit weird. The sounds that the characters make specifically is what I'm talking about. You'll realize after playing this game a few times that a lot of what the character says is reused, and some of them sound exactly the same. I understand for Jack and Prototype Jack to sound the same, but for Heihachi to sound like Jack is really weird. It just seems out of place that a boss, the main boss of the game, sounds like a regular character. It's kind of weird. But other than that, there's not much else to say about the audio. It's fine, and while I can't really comment on the music, I'll give this a 6 out of 10 for audio, slightly above average. While the audio isn't horrible, it's nothing very impressive. Some of the voices sound the same, some of the grunts for Heihachi sharing, not even having his own voice and sharing the same lines as Jack and Prototype Jack is really just odd. Still, some of the sounds do sound impactful when you punch somebody. And while there is no music, I don't know if it's an emulator or there's just no music on the PS1, I can't comment on that. But overall, the audio does its job and nothing more. So on to the gameplay. Now everyone knows how Tekken goes. You pick a character and you enter into the fray of Tekken. So how do you play Tekken? Well, it's actually much simpler than it seems. It pretty much uses a 4-button scheme, and each button controls a certain limb. You use X for the left kick, circle for right kick, square for left punch, and triangle for the right punch. Using any combination of these buttons will result in different combos. Because of the control scheme, the combos are easy to learn, but hard to master. Since this is the first Tekken, there are a lot of imperfections when it comes to the combat. For some reason, the controls aren't as tight as the newer Tekkens are. You also have to be extremely precise on the moves you do, or else you're going to do the wrong move and then you'll die. There's also no move list during the fights that you can pull up, as done in later Tekkens, so you're going to have to experiment and find your own combos. One of the cooler things in the arcade mode that became, again, a staple of the Tekken games was the sub-bosses. Each character will face a different character depending on who you choose, as Jack will have to face Prototype Jack before he faces Heihachi in the final battle. While some of these bosses do have their own unique styles, most of them are pretty much carbon copies of the characters that you already have. One of my biggest complaints with this game, and there's no other way to put it, is the difficulty. This game is unforgiving. Honestly, even on lower difficulty settings, this game still gives a challenge. Not only that, but the fighting engine is seriously outdated. There is no sidestep, there are a very limited amount of moves that each character can do, and the game is also very unbalanced. There's also a severe lack of features. All you have is arcade mode, 2-player mode, and that's it. Nothing else. No practice mode, no time attack mode, no survival mode, nothing. The only real extra mode that this game offers is Galaga. This game appears when you first put in the game and you start playing. When you beat all 8 stages, you get to unlock Devil Kazuya, which is pretty much a palette swap for Kazuya, so it's nothing really too worthwhile. So with everything said and done, I give the gameplay a 4 out of 10. The gameplay is aged and has not aged gracefully. While it did set the standards for Tekken games to come and a couple of things they do such as the sub-bosses and all that stuff, this game is not fun to play. The cheap AI, the lack of any worthwhile modes, and the limited moveset certainly plague this game. Overall, there's not much else to say. This game is just simply not that good. As a longtime Tekken fan, this is the worst Tekken that I've ever played. You can say what you want about Tekken's 4 limited roster. You can say what you want about Tekken 6 bonk mechanics. You can say whatever you want, but this is the absolute worst Tekken to play. And that's why my final overall score for this Tekken is a 4.5 out of 10. It is a below average fighter and nothing more. At the time it might have been decent, it might have been kind of cool, but here it is really bad. The age has really shown. But I promise you, this isn't how all the Tekken games are for the PS1. There are some good ones, and we're going to get to that, as the next Tekken game I'm going to review is Tekken 2. Now I hope you guys enjoyed this video, support me on Patreon, and this is Pow3rh0use signing off.
You win. 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1. Game over.